Renaissance, from the Central Avenue, from the New Orleans stuff, the pure jazz, and that meaning rooted. I'll put it real quickly. My first teacher in vernacular form was tap. I learned tap dancing, and my teacher was Fayard Nicholas. How many heard of the Nicholas brothers? Okay, the oldest one was my teacher, and I worked with him and did not even know who he was. And I met him by a flat tire. He had a flat tire, and nobody was helping him. And I was looking for vernacular jazz dances. And I had a book, I had my tap shoes up on my steering, on my handlebars. This is late 60s. This is 60s. I'm riding my little bike. We had those banana bicycles, you know. I thought it was a hot rodder. And he saw me, and then I saw this guy. Nobody's helping him. This older guy trying to put the tire up. Nobody would help him. So I stopped and said, I'm going to do my good deed for the day. I'm going to help and get that tire on. And he looked on my handlebars, and he saw my tap shoes hanging down, you know. And then, he said, oh, I'm a tap dancer. And I said, yeah, sure. Who's this guy talking about? I'm a tap dancer. And he's up there bragging on what he did, and I'm up there holding the tire. He ain't helping me out enough. I said, man, what's up wrong with you? So, at this time, I was going around, and he said, you want to learn? And as a matter of fact, he called me. You know what he called me? He said, what's that? You're a hoofer. He said, you're a hoofer. I said,
Hoofer.
Yeah, and I thought he was calling me a hooker. I said,
Do you know what is a hoofer?
see, that's the good thing. See,
Yeah.
that same thing. I said, what's a hoofer?
The hoofer, correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
is people who do basically tap dancing without iron. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Yeah?
Advanced
Look at that
dance.
hoofer. We see Bill Robinson do that in some movies. One of them is on a boat at some
Yeah.
point.
Uh-huh.
And how he's calling me? He's calling me a hooker? But he was just hacking, are you a hoofer? You understand?
I didn't know what he was. He's this guy out on the street, this older guy. So he said, here's my card. Come by my house if you want to learn how to dance. I said, yeah, okay, yeah. But you guys got to realize, at that time, I was researching. There was not a lot of vernacular books out. If they were only printed out at a short man's time. Okay, and here's another thing people do not understand. America never had its own art form. It never had its own dance. It never had its own jazz until the slaves came through, and it was birthed through there. And that's when the development of that dance form started to come from. The minuets and certain steps out of that evolved into what we call jazz and stuff. Slaves was not allowed to dance. They were not allowed to do it. The first dance the slaves were allowed to dance was the jig. Okay? And then they progressed in that. And one of the best jig dancers that mixed African rhythms was Master Juba. And then look him up, Master Juba.
Is it also from that where the cakewalk?
I was a little bit before the cakewalk.
Okay.
This is before the cakewalk.
For the story, the cakewalk, have you heard about the story? Basically, there is, by the time of slavery, there is slave from the house, a slave from the field, right? And so the slave from the house, the benefit they have is that they can have, they can be clean, they can have shower, etc. But they have, they were, how can I say that? They have the clothes of their owner, but they saw their owner leave because they were living also in the house, and so they see their owners dancing the jig at some point.
The jig and the minuets and
Yes.
the prance and the clouds.
And as Chester was telling you, they were not allowed to dance. But as soon as the master were out, they closed the door, and they were dancing and imitate them, for having fun. And the thing is that one of the owner saw them. And he was like, oh, look at them. They try to do like us. Look at them. And he didn't understood that the slave were actually making fun of them. And so the guy was like, oh, he tried to do like us. Oh, this is so cute. I'm going to imitate them. So he was having a chocolate cake. And he gave a piece of cake to the slave and saying, "Okay, dance, show us," you know, kind of having fun. Show us. The slave was like, "I'm not sure." So he did the dance. He gave a piece of cake to the slave. This is just how the story I've been told to me. Maybe it's a bit romanced, but I want to take that way. He gave the piece of cake to the slave owner, the slave. And then the guy, the master, continue his kind of mockery, take the chocolate cake, put the cake on his face, and start to imitating the slave who was actually making fun of him. And this is how one of the first blackface came out.
That's the first.
So from the jig, as he was explaining you,
From out of the jig, when you're doing the jig, they were like looking at them do the cake, the high cakes and everything else, but they would put their own rhythms to it, stuff that they remembered. Because ragged time, we say ragtime music, is done in two.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be 1, 2, 1, 2. That's a feel. It ain't no swing feel, not yet. But it's the ragged time made it a swing feel. Joplin, Hubie Blake, those are the characters that change those rhythms. So it's a doom ticka doom ticka doom high kick ticka doom prance, boom scratching the gravel. These are all old steps, and that's why it emulated all the way today. Why do we have Broadway shows? They have a hat, they have a cane, they do the kicks. It's the same. The only thing that's different is the music that changes. You see, that transition is a thread. But the jig was one of the first ones that came out. And then we had the buck dancing. Buck dance, you know what buck dancing is? Yes or no? Buck dancing is the original name for tap dancing, flat-footed dancing. That was done on the plantation. And then they would these big plank boards, and they would do the time step. The time step is a step that is evolved to call up the rhythm so the band can pick up. It's just like African rhythms and stuff, but it was never tap dance. We never had stuff like shuffle, hop, this stuff. It was parodies. We tell a story. Thanks for the Boogie Ride, and then that was Thanks for the Boogie Ride was one of the first time steps that evolved, and it was called single time step. The boom, da, the book, every hand stank for the book, every ride stank for the book.
so the shuffle was not even in the vocabulary by the time.
No. The shuffle came for a mockery. Shuffle was like, oh, you're too lazy. You're not working hard enough. You're just shuffling along, just shuffle. But really, the first time step was done on the dirt, and it was a jazz movement. And the only reason it was done on the dirt was it was made to plant seeds into the ground. You know how you have a hole, you plant seeds in your food, and that's what it is. Same thing with the Charleston. That was made. I didn't have a hole. I could not. I used the side of my feet. I'm scratching the ground. That's why in the cakewalk, scratching the gravel was here. Scratching gravel is and the ladies would bend with the skirts and the guys would tilt their hat. That's called scratching the gravel. First time step, again, is shug, slide, ooh, ah, shug, slide, ooh, ah, shug. And he makes a long note. If you take that, put it on a hard surface, you can't do this because you can't hear. Yes, no. Huh? So we get back going from here. I got a hop. I say, yes.
And all this in the context of slaves not allowed to dance. So you have to understand that this has been made like kind of, it's a survival thing at some point.
It is. Jazz. A lot of beautiful things came out of it, but jazz is a story of dance of life. That's what it is. It was just these people's life. And it continues on, even if it's 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1920s, and other dancers that joined in. They're telling their story of that decade of what they were about. Okay? So I'm just letting you know, you're part, if you're into the swing community or tap community or whatever it is, you're part of that. You're part of that legacy. Yes? Because I'll tell you, you're doing a style of dance. A lot of the older people say, whoa, that's hip, that's cool. The younger people go, it's cool, but see, they don't understand. They'll look at it and say, I like it, but I don't know what I'm looking at. But not unless you get deep into it. And then you start showing the connection. I just did, last week I did a convention at the B-Boys convention. I had the top B-Boys, all the poppers and the lockers and everybody. And I said, okay, we're going to cipher today. And they looked at me, what was that? No, we're ciphering today. Have you ever heard that word, ciphering?
It's even surprising me that the B-Boys doesn't know the word cipher, because it's pretty common. It depends maybe of the country.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be something pretty...
Yeah. It comes from a gospel thing on the plantation, ring shouts, ring dances. And later on it becomes the gospel. Okay, yes? So, what do they do in the church? They get in a circle, yes? And they move to the side. There's certain moves you could do in the church you can't do on the dance in the nightclub. I'm just letting you know. But when you move to the side, that's called ring shouts, when you're moving forward. And there's a side break. Side breaks came first, way before T.O.B. breaks. Then that's called ciphering. In West Africa, where do they get circle? Ciphering. The drummers, the dancers go into the drummers hit the breaks. And there's a whole series of different traditional dances. When you go, when you're doing the cakewalk, when you go, you're circle. When you're doing swing dancing, what you go? The Big Apple, whatever that is called, the cat's corner. Ciphering. When they dance against each other, you go into the middle, you do your thing. When you hear that last part of the break, you go back. Hello? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me, people? Come on now.
I think you can visualize how we behave to the party when we gather around someone, when we do a jam circle.
Yeah.
When we dance in couple, we go to the circle also, all these things. He was telling exactly this at the beginning before he even start with his own story. Mm-hmm. In jazz, vernacular jazz, there is no lines. It's all about curves and circle. Yes?
What's that, the Lion King? The circle of life.
Yes. Exactly. But you know what? We have to go back to something, because I think we missed something very important to your own story, my friend. You were telling about the guy who you thought he called you a hooker.
Oh.
Who is that guy?
See, y'all got to keep me on track, because I got 1 million of them.
Yeah. This is why I'm here.
Okay.
You have to tell them. You have to tell them who is that guy. I don't know, but I guess who he is.
Now you got to remember, I was doing my research, and I was trying to tap dance. I said, I want to tap dance like seeing them old movies, but the schools at that time, it was just watered down, And they said, okay, now here's the first step. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding. I was learning something, but it was not what I wanted. But that's what I had to do. So my mother said, you're getting frustrated. Take that man's offer up. Go over his house and learn how to dance. And I said, I want to do it. So I went over his house, knocked on the door. He said, hey, man, how you doing? I said, I'm fine. He said, you ready for your first lesson? I said, oh, yeah. He said, come on. Walked in his house. He had a rug, man, big old rug. He grabbed the rug and said, oh, what? He took it over, beautiful floor right there. He said, show me what you got.
Have you ever had a lesson with someone starting by, show me what you got? When you came to actually take what the teacher was.
But you wanted to see where I was at. My brain was at. So I thought I was some hot stuff, because I was taking these little tap classes. I knew I was hot. I knew you couldn't tell me nothing. I said, stand back, I'm hot.
I can imagine, the little Chester doing that, It's so fun.
I ready, I said, I said, beat that. He looked at me and said, interesting. He said, try this. And he got on the floor. And he looked at me. I looked at him. Then I looked at the floor. Then he looked at the floor. Then he looked at me. Then I looked at him. I said, mine don't look like yours. He said, if you want to.
At the end.
No. He didn't do that. I didn't do
Where is that? You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
but it started with him. He said, if you want to learn this, he said, you came here, so let's get to work. Come to find out, we had a friendship over 2 years and a half. Now, you notice, we were just hanging out. But I would come over there, he would tell me the step. He would show me the step. We would dance and do all kinds of stuff. But I would take it home and learn it. And I would work with him at his class. We had Wednesday night classes from like 7 o'clock to 2 in the morning. And we would work on different styles. And it was a lot of his friends came in there. They were great dancers. And he was the one that got me started. And without knowing who he was until I saw an old movie late at night, and those guys were flying in the air and splitting down, and I looked at the picture and said, oh my God, that's him. Didn't know it was him.
And he's, because you have to tell
They
me.
are Nicholas, the Nicholas brothers. And that was who I was dancing with. And then he took me, I was dancing with him 2 years and a half.
Without knowing.
Without knowing it half. Then he would take me to a friend. He said, I want to show you another style of rhythm. And he took me to a gentleman named Clarence Landry, otherwise named Frenchie. He worked with Duke Ellington's band, and he was called the Hi-Hatters. They were very elegant, top hats, canes, and they would do all these hat tricks and stuff. I learned different frames from him. I learned acrobatic dancing from a U.S. Ulysses son called Argalia Thompson. He did acrobatics. He would run upside the wall. They would do flips, everything the b-boys and stuff doing, stuff like that. Then eccentric dance. How many of you heard of eccentric? Eccentric dancing is what you see like the pop lockers do, waving and stuff. That was done in the 1900s. The guy that created that, one of the guys, was Esmond Mosby. And his group was called the Three Chocolatiers, like the Three Musketeers, Three Chocolatiers. And they did comedy dancing. So he said, if you're going to do comedy, you really going to have to learn punch steps that are very difficult. And after you learn them, you have to do them so well, you have to make them look very easy and awkward. So when you see a step, you go, that's an interesting step. And then somebody get up there and try it, it's not going to happen. So we did. And I learned women chorus line from Frances Neely, that worked with Basie's band. I worked with Catherine Dunham. How many heard of Catherine Dunham? Okay, look at that. First woman that did Haitian dancing. From Haitian, she became a voodoo princess, came back, and equitably put her dance company. This is like in the 40s, going into the 50s, that did contemporary modern dance with vernacular dance. Catherine Dunham was a very powerful person. You write this down. She's in the movie Stormy Weather also. And
Do you know this movie, Stormy Weather? No? This is the movie where you have this famous dance scene with the Nicholas brothers and the stairs. Maybe you have seen this video when they go down a slide. There's Cap Calloway singing also.
Yeah.
No? This is the movie Stormy Weather. It's my favorite film also. There is Bill Robinson also in this movie. And yes, she was in this movie.
You got to write these things down, because if you're researching for yourself,
Stormy Weather.
That 1943 Stormy Weather. These are dances you should probably read in the book, but it's good to see it, because when you see it, you get a whole different mindset. I learned just different styles from different people, from chorus line dancing, women's chorus line dancing, boys, the Cotton Club boys chorus line. I learned Leonard Reed. I was one of his proteges. I worked with him. He was the creator of the Shim Sham. You know what the Shim Sham is, right? Yes? Okay, you know where it comes from, right? Now, hold it. Don't say that. Who invented the Shim Sham? Okay, that's right. A lot of people will say Frankie Manning. You know who Frankie Manning is? Yes? Frankie Manning revised it and brought it back out. So
It's like Michael Jackson in the moonwalk.
that's correct. Okay.
He didn't
So-
create the moonwalk. Someone created already before, but he makes it so popular that everybody thinks he created it.
You got it? So I'm just telling you, these are people that invented stuff and got our stuff. Take the names down so you guys can have it. And all it does is it reinforce your dancing abilities when you see certain things. Because I was fortunate to see these people before they passed. And I sat down, like I said, by the time I got to college or in a dance school, I'm sitting there watching the teachers do this stuff. I said, no, that step didn't go like that. No, that didn't go. No. When I got to college, I had to probably take 3.5 years of choreography class. They kicked me out in 2 months. They kicked me.
It's a record. I mean,
Yeah.
you're proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was there.
You say that like a trophy,
Well, I came to learn. I wanted to learn. I was coming in there when they gave me the exercise. Okay, you got to learn the counts. You have to learn the structure of the music. And then they would put us in these little groups. And I'm going, okay, this is good. But they didn't know. I was hanging out with these
Masters already.
yeah, they were showing me, oh no, the rhythm goes like this. And then when you hear this, good. So I'm looking at this, so I was popping out 8 to 10 dances a day. And it was kicking me out.
So as you can see, what is telling exactly what we were talking about before, about a teacher that having their science to tell the people how to dance. You have to dance like this. When you have some people coming with life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen so many things and they've been contradicted, Thankfully, Chester, you continue.
You're talking about with the teacher, so when you're learning certain things?
Yes, because at some point there was a lot of nice question about people, okay, what is the limit about when you have to learn something and where you start to create something? And I was explaining them, it's like learning a language, you have to learn how to talk. I mean, when I was taking Chinese language, there is many
There's a lot of Chinese.
Yeah, there is Cantonese.
Mandarin.
But if I want to be understood by your people, I will be like, okay, I have to learn from you first. How do I say this word, the alphabet and etc. The kanjis and stuff. And then once I know how to speak, I can start to tell my story and express myself. Mm-hmm. And at some point,
you have to learn the foundation.
To have the foundation.
You got to get the foundation. Jazz has a foundation. When you understand the foundation, and then you say, when do you start to create? Well, you'll be creating at the same time you're learning. You might learn something basic, and you say, okay, this is how I learned it. Now, how do I put it in context? Do you want to learn this step is made for this step? This is my intro step. This is my other. We just had a thing talk about that on the way up here. Me and we was there. We was talking about breaks. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about how do you put breaks. I said, well, breaks are structures. Or they're techniques that use from one rhythm to the next to build to continue. You have to understand how to use them. But you'll learn the steps, understand what the steps are about. And now we're going to take those steps and put them in an exercise. Like I'll say it in a sentence. Say it in this. Then you say it in your sentence. And so that works up here, but that goes here. Then we're going to add on to that. Then we're going to give you stuff. You might dance in place.
Mm. We can make a parallel with the language again. There is many words that can say the same thing. But at some point, the fact that there is these words, it's more precise to target a sense, something that you really want to say. By knowing exactly what it means, makes you more accurate when you express yourself. Does it make sense? And so understand what it means, exactly the same way you have to understand where this step comes from, makes you even more smart about the way you express yourself and you use this step. You don't use this step because you have to use it. You use it because you know why and you want to say that precisely. Okay?
Especially when you're on that floor.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to have to use this. This is going to always save you. You hear the music, and that music might tell you something. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, I can do this. No matter how long you've been doing the step, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000,000 times, it's going to come out different if you're sharp enough to just listen to it. You got to come out with it. I've done a step 1,000,000 times, and I always find new ways to do it. Oh, that's a cool way. Let me do this thing. Because the music is making me feel a different thing. it's going to hit you the same way, you know.
And you were talking 5 minutes. Okay. One last question, because
Okay.
you say something very interesting. Eccentric dances.
Yes.
What is the parallel, if there is, between the jazz vernacular and eccentric dancer? Because you were explaining us that eccentric dancer were the people from the 30s doing some different.
It's different type of in between rhythms to move like the poppers.
Yes.
Like the poppers. There's toppers.
Do you know what is
whackers.
popping?
You know.
Very famous in hip hop dance. You know, the contraction of the muscle makes you move like a robot at some point.
So you're getting into more polyrhythms rather than just I'm hitting this beat, beat, and then there's angles, and then there's circulars, and all that. But what's are in between those things? There's rhythms. We're hitting another dimension. Circles within circles, dimensions in the air. So boom, 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 boom. I'm hitting my rhythmic thing, and I'm going. Then you're isolating your body. That's what's eccentric. Doing something that's completely, you might look like rubbery or watery substance. Okay? You might be real rigid. And there was a lot of great eccentric dancers at that time. Robbie Lake Williams, Crip Hurd, Eddie Rochester Anderson.
Do you also put in the same group someone as Snake Hips?
Snake Hips Tucker.
Do you know Snake Hips? Yes, Snake Hips. The guy dancing and so flexible with his hips. Snake Hips.
Yep.
All the people who have their something special. I mean, they bring their own thing. They all dance jazz vernacular, but they have their signature at some point. This one is very flexible like this. This girl is very like this. Like you were talking. There is Mireille Lavelle. Mireille Lavelle. It's a dancer. She does a lot of acrobatic on the ends, and a lot of movements were taken also from hip hop dancer doing spin on one hand. A lot of acrobatics on the floor. Very acrobatic girl and flexible on the back. I mean, yeah, many kind of different things. Well, I think we have to wrap up pretty shortly. But this is time. Maybe if I have to ask one last question for Chester, this is the moment. I bring the microphone to you. It's an encyclopedia, so this is the moment you have to ask anything. It could be anything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Go on. Yes.
Don't be shy.
Could you please tell something about the relationship with drumming and dancing?
Drumming?
Drumming, yeah.
Drumming is good. Very good. Okay, another thing you got to remember. Most powerful instrument in the world is the drum and bass line. Drumming and dancing, you got to have them, especially for tap dancers, because that was the interlock from the feet to the drums. Like I said, they were parodies. I said, Thankful Boogie Ride was a single time step. And then we're all going to the Boogie Ride. That's a double. And I talk about different drum rhythms. In a drum rhythm, if you're a jazz drummer or whatever, you have to learn the rudiments. How many rudiments are there in a jazz you have to learn in the jazz drumming? There are 26 jazz rudiments. There are 28 time steps. You have to learn exactly the same way. Whether it's flams, you have to do flams, but with your feet. So there is a tape called The Brush Man. You want to write that down. You into drumming? You like drumming? What trap drumming or what? Good trap drumming. Okay, look up the Brush Man. He traces stuff all the way back, and it goes taps and traps. That's what it's called. It's a double DVD set. It goes way back. This guy's drummed with everybody, all the old greats drummers, Joe Jones and Max Roach and stuff. And it's a chapter. There's like 5 chapters. I'm in the third chapter with him, because we talk about the elements of trade-off rhythm. Yeah, I'm always. Yeah, I'm everywhere. And when you see the camera, you'll see the snare here. Then there's a board here, and you see my foot here. And the drummers, we talk about single strokes, flams. paradiddles, flam paradiddles, Swiss triplets. I said, oh, you do it like that with your hands. Well, I do this with my foot. Hey. So, but it's very good. Drumming is very, not only it holds the beat, but it is an instrumental thing that can play melody if you listen to it. Of course, the main drummer that brought it in the foreground was, you know who that is? Nope. Go back. Huh? Nope. Go back. Huh? Baby Dodge was the creator of all. He was the one that, he was the master that, those was the student. But the drummer underneath him, underneath him, that pushed it was Chick Webb. Remember that. Chick Webb took the drum set from back and pushed it in the foreground so drummers and dancers can go there. Like Mingus and all that took the bass, pushed it forward. Charlie Christian took the guitar, first electrified guitar.
I've heard a story about how the drums has been created. The drum set has been created. Do you know about this story? By the time there was no drummer, there was a group of people, one holding the big boom, one the and it's a lot of money to hire that much people, And one day the guy decided that okay, I'm gonna all do myself because I don't have anyone here available, but you have to play because I need to have my money. He bring all of this together, and this is how he started to make this happen. The drum set at some point, very simple as that. Again, one more time, a situation of life makes something amazing. Yeah. All right, I think we're gonna wrap up this time, and thank you so much for coming because you were pretty. Many people.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming.
Yes, and of course, if you have any question, don't hesitate to come to us. You know how Chester is. He's a very nice guy. You can come to ask him a lot of thousand questions. He will never stop talking.
Especially if you're gonna give me a vanilla float, root beer float.
Exactly. So thank you again, Chester, and thank you guys. And yes, see you later.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun for you.